Kimberly, but we're probably going to pop in at any given moment now. Uh, we've got James Redding saying, I'm here waiting. Okay.
I don't.
So we'll see. It says we're live. It may take a second to kick in. I notice it's just now kicking in on the iPad I have here.
Okay, I just got the notification, but
Okay.
mine is not.
And it looks like I am live.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
First of all, before we get going, don't worry about it, darling. You'll find me in a second.
Okay, it's going.
She's frantically trying to catch up with the stream because she likes to kind of, say hi to you folks and monitor the conversation that's going on. First question to everybody. Hi, Kathy, brand new tribal elder. Kathy Sandrew, I see. James Redding, a long time commenter, is in. Deuces Wild, Divining Dragon, Oberheim. Who else do we have here? Um, Radio La Princess. First time I've seen you on the stream. I think I may have seen a comment by you, but I may be wrong about that. Maybe just your moniker sounds like I should know it, right? We've got, oh, you're really into the comments here, and I'm going to get to your comments before we get into the gist of what I'm talking about tonight, right? I've already mentioned. Oberheim and Dragon, Deuces Wild, of course. And I know as I went up that we had a couple of more here. Rockin' Robin Bird, I think I just mentioned. Just the Facts Man. That's Dan the Man. I always call him Dan the Man. And he's going to be joining us a little later. Dan, I just made you and Dr. Insomnia moderators for the channel. Now, before I get to your comments here, because I'm just going to let people kind of trickle in, and then by the time we get into discussing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the results that we now have to live with, I did want to give everybody a chance to dribble in there and they don't have to play catch up. I did also want to ask you guys, so I'm going to switch down to the bottom here real quick. Let me know, how's my voice doing? How's the sound in general? Now, if you get an occasional, every 5 to 10 seconds, don't complain about that. That's what we've generally gotten. But is it as good, especially if you were here for my spot stream last night that lasted 8 minutes? I think I've corrected what was going wrong. So Dan says sounds really good. Voice is loud and clear. Sound is good from Dragon, Georgia Music for All Seasons. Good to see you, George. Said that as well. James Redding, okay, good. All right. Zong ruler, is that how you say it? How do you do an M and a G? Mung. Zong ruler. All right. See how anal I can be, man? He says, I respect your opinion about Oasis, Michael, but I do disagree. George Martin called Noel Gallagher the finest songwriter of your generation. Are you talking about some of my older videos on Oasis? Because you know what, brother? I love Oasis. I bought probably their first 5 or 6 albums. Getting past the third album, they got less interesting for me as they went along. But those early albums, just based on those first 3 albums, and especially the first 2, I am a major Oasis fan, and I've always said they're very talented. All right. But I have admitted that, as they progressed, I kept buying the albums because it was in my brain. They're a good band, And if I have one artist that I kind of hold the highest in classic rock, it would be Paul McCartney for a lot of reasons, not just with his work with the Beatles, but as a solo artist. And I love Paul McCartney and Wings, right? And I love his style. I loved John Lennon's songwriting style as much as I did Paul McCartney. But Paul has been with us a lot longer due to a tragedy concerning John Lennon. So anybody that writes anywhere close to a Beatlistic style, brother.
Oh,
I'm
hi,
gonna love.
Stormcloud.
Man, I didn't even get a chance to barely get started and look at this, baby. Storm Cop. Oh man, I just mentioned you last night. I'm trying to remember. I think you were in the comments. Storm Cop has just given us a $50 super thanks.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I'm going to take a bit, and I'll conclude my thoughts on Oasis because you're a relatively new um, um commenter that I've noticed so far, and you bring up a good point. All right, and if you ask me, Oasis got denied last night, but they were denied even in the fan vote, brother. But I want to get to this Storm Cop. Sorry, I'm late. Better late than never, brother. You can come in late like that anytime you want. All right. One of the things that I may be switching tonight, I'm using my regular. I have a pair of earphones in, not to monitor, but to use as mics. And the reason I do that is if I turn around or whatever, I've got it, and plus I don't have a mic in front of my face. But if the sound still continues to be an issue, I have a Yeti mic here that I've had on the side. And you know what? It was James, aka Storm Cop, that paid for that puppy. So when you do give us, as a matter of fact, I want to turn my attention to this, and then I'm going to get right into this tonight, folks. And there's no, I don't have to stop at an hour, like I do on Sundays. And I felt like I was biting off a bit more than I could chew last night. And that's why we're doing this. As soon as I got off Royce, I checked to see what the results of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was. And immediately I showed Kimberly, didn't I? I go, I have no choice. I have to stream tomorrow. So,
Yep, you did.
yep. See, she's concurring with me. Um, so that's why we're streaming tonight. All right. And on top of that, I wanted to test out the microphone and everything else. So I don't have to leave in an hour. All right. It'll depend how, there's no set time, but I can guarantee you we're probably going to go over an hour tonight. So settle on in because this is going to be a big discussion. And I do want to hear from you folks because this is the first Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Oh, you
induction.
got a tribal elder.
What's that?
A new tribal
Oh,
elder.
cause see, I'm already over on my
Yep.
artwork here. Who do we get here?
It's
P401. He just joined Royce's.
Oh,
Welcome,
nice.
P401. As a matter of fact, if you go by a particular name, let me know. But we can just call you P401, right? But welcome to being a tribal elder. By the way, I know I'm behind on getting my weekly, I promised, but videos out to you members. Hang on with me. It is taking off, but I did have to spend a week, 10 days, kind of catching up because since I've been streaming, my regular videos have kind of they took a nosedive as far as how many I was getting out and everything. And part of it is me reconfiguring the channel so that it can also contain the live streams, right? And so it's like I'm like a weightlifter. I'm still sore, but I'm adding more weight as we go. And if you've noticed, I've put out quite a few more of my regular videos lately, but I am behind on that on the series I was doing, and I have a lot more plans for that. So bear with me, folks. And in the next day or so, I will get that video out to my members only. I try to get one video out a week to my members only. And in the future, who knows, maybe more than that. I've got a couple of ideas, but right now I'm balancing so many things. You may have noticed I'm not putting out as many shorts or polls like I have. And that's mainly because I've been focusing on either the stream like we're doing tonight, or I'm also focusing on getting my regular content, which is the content that was built or that built this channel. So bear with me. I am a one-man operation. The only help I get is during my live streams. My wonderful wife plays producer and head moderator for me, right? Other than that, I write my own videos. I take my own notes. I research. I use my own past and my thing, and I come across with a theme that I present to you guys, and I never say you have to take my word for it, as all my longtime viewers know that I'll always say, this is Michael Noland. That's the bottom line, name of the channel, right? Cheap plug. But the bottom line as I see it, and that goes for tonight. Anything I have to say about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tonight will be open to debate, of course. And I want to hear from you, just like this deal with Oasis, all right? Oasis deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is no doubt. Completely talented band, a band made up of people I'm not crazy about, but I'm also a major Bruce Springsteen fan. I'm not crazy about, you know, Mr. Billionaire. I'm not crazy about Roger Waters, but man, the second he puts out something worth listening to, I'm going to be there. And there's, I don't have to like a star or a rock artist or band, their personalities or anything, to enjoy their music. Their art is greater than them, always in my mind. And that's going to be a crux of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, welcome aboard. I want to make sure that I got your name here, P401. That's right. And I became aware of you over at Royce. I think you've been in a couple of the comments for me. So, welcome. And you, along with James, will get your shout out as a tribal member. You get a shout out at all of my regular videos at the very end, and that doesn't change from video to video as long as you pay your tribal dues. You're on that list, right? And I've even made a couple of overriding decisions about who's on that list, but that was me making a tribe master decision. But the vast majority over there are true. There's only two of you that were not true tribal members, right? But it doesn't matter. To me, there's a couple of people that will get that honorific title no matter what, because they've been that important to the channel. It's just my way of honoring my viewers first, right? So you'll get your shout out. And James, you'll get your shout out along with another five people so far. Just the Facts Man gave us $10 last night. White Monkey gave us two. And by the way, folks, if that's all you can do, don't be scared by a $50 donation going, well, my $2, my $3 won't help. It certainly will, because if 10 of you decided to do that, then we've got another $20 added. And it always goes back to the equipment, the maintenance. I have to buy new batteries for lights, new cables as they go out, things like that. It always goes back even to the point of buying new equipment. I've got a computer back here that I purchased with the channel's profits, and that is going to figure greatly, and it's already doing service in the background. All right. All of that's been done with your kind help, folks. So I just wanted to bring that out. So White Monkey gave us $2 and then followed it up with $5. So he sometimes does that, right? Great channel, by the way. Ben Scheidecker, $10. Thank you, Ben. And I did make you a moderator. I think I already stated that. And Deuces Wild with another $10. So that was all from last night. That'll be added with Sancho and Brendan 1351, and along with Stormcop's wonderful donation here, and a shout out to all the current members. All right, good. All right, so now we've got channel business all out of the way. We've got a good crowd coming in. We're over 50 already. So let's get started. First of all, I was gonna kind of chat with you guys tonight, but that intro took a little bit of time. I do want to say one thing. I love it that you guys are chatting with each other. That's the kind of community I want to definitely encourage on this channel. Let's keep it to rock and roll, folks. You know, we've got a lot of disagreements between us as just human beings on this planet anyway. And we all see things in our own, by our own set of whatever, you know, political beliefs, spiritual beliefs, even philosophical, as I've said before. But here, there's one thing that most of us that are coming over here for anyway would agree upon, and that's we love good classic rock. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be here, as I've said many times, because that's basically what this channel is about. I'm a rock musician from way back, never made it big or anything like that, but I played every dive bar known to man, every high school, junior high, college, junior college, and university known to man, nightclubs, block parties, warehouse parties, pubs, you name it, restaurants. I've played them, right? And made a bit of a living back in the day. But most of all, I'm a rock fan, just like the rest of you. I collected records by people I wouldn't have been able to play like. They were far beyond me. So it wasn't just because I was a musician that I got interested in rock and roll. If I had never picked up the guitar, which is my primary instrument, I would have still been a rock and roll fan, right? So that's where I'm coming from. And I'm an ornery old guy. So I have a few opinions, right? I've often called myself rock's first opinionator, you know, first true, you know, rock's first true opinionator. And that's all I do. I just give my opinion, and I'm well aware that a lot of you won't agree with that. And that's fine too. It's just a basis to get this whole discussion started. So last night on the stream, I kind of went over the idea. If you guys recall, I talked about how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame works. So if you weren't here on the stream, I'm going to do a quick catch up for you right now. When the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame puts out its fan list for or the list of nominations. The nominations always start off with 14, and I think I've got it clear now. And it ends up with 7 of those, although there have been times in the past that not all 7 have been chosen. Okay, but 7 of them are up for um, furtherance. They're up for being inducted. Being nominated is like being nominated for an Academy Award. Only 1 out of 5 actors or 1 out of 5 movies is going to take it home, right? Or at least that's the way they used to run it. I haven't watched the Academy Awards in years, but if that's the way they still do it, that's the way they've always done it. And the same thing with the Academy or with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They put out 14 uh, nominations at the beginning of this year, earlier on in this year. And I, of course, have been following that all along. All right. Um, the ballot, and in my last video, regular video covering the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I've got pictures of that ballot as it was put. If you want to know what the fan ballot finally read, you can find it online. Just look at fan ballot before inductee list was involved or fan ballot results, and you'll come up with it. I'm looking at it right now. And out of the 14, we'll go from the bottom to the top here. All right. The 14 so-called rock artists, we're going to be discussing that tonight, were Mana. I've never heard of them, and I've got to tell you, I did some research. A whole lot of people have never heard of them. So I've always suspected that was a politically inclined or a subgroup within the Rock and Roll Hall uh, nomination committee. Somebody pushed that name because I don't know anybody that's aware of them. Now, watch, one of you'll go, oh, I've got everything by them, right? But I'm not aware of them. But that was one, and I can think of at least 100 other true rock bands that should have been on that nomination list instead of Mana. whoever they are. And I think that's how they're pronounced. They got the hyphen over the A. It's MANA with a hyphen over the A. Then there was Oasis. Now, notice what I'm saying here. We're starting from the bottom up. These are the final vote tally: 2,551,564 votes. And 34,000, only 34,000 went to Mana. 99,000 went to Oasis. So they did like 3 times the business of this unknown entity. But out of the known entity, they were dead last, weren't they? So I find this a big black eye, the results of the voting alone. All right. Then you have Outcast beating Oasis by only 8,000 votes, with 107,000 votes and change. The White Stripes at 110, so they went up another 3,000 votes. Joy Division and New Order, and we talked about that, choose one, right? But they are using the example that, well, the faces and the small faces, and one of you were saying the 3 remaining faces and small faces are getting together to record a new album. I can't wait for that. That was brand new news, and I found that out from one of you fine folks in the peanut gallery just before I got up on stream. I forget which one of you brought it up, but what a wonderful idea. And on top of that, new material, a new album. I'm all for that. All right. So, but they came in at 120. So they bumped up quite a bit by 10,000 jump there. Mariah Carey at 137,000. And she was in, what is that, 9th place, with Black Crowes in 8th place, barely missing the winning team, or the suggestion that the fans get to make. And we're going to talk about just what is that suggestion they were allowed to make, because that's all connected to this, folks. And the Black Crowes had 165,000. Chubby Checker was number 7. So Chubby Checker, now all of these should be safe from this point on if the fan vote counted. And we're going to tell you why the fan vote doesn't really count tonight. And I'll explain that it can't count just by the way that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is set up. And then I'm going to prove my point by the final results that were announced on America's Got a Toilet last night while I was streaming. Okay. In the number 6 position, Soundgarden, 233,000. All of these guys here that I'm going to mention all got 200,000 votes or more, with the number 1 position getting 329,000 votes, which is what? A little, just under 1/3 of a million votes. All right. So out of 2,551,000 plus votes, even the number 1 band only got 1/3 of those votes. But wow, out of that many, they got, well, not 1/3 of those votes. I guess it'd be a 1/6 if you include that, maybe a 1/7 of those votes. But even that is a lot when you consider the total votes here. After Soundgarden, at number 6, we had Joe Cocker at number 5, Cyndi Lauper at number 4, Billy Idol at number 3, Bad Company at number 2, and Fish at number 1. And Fish received well over 50,000 votes more than Bad Company got. And Bad Company just missed the 300,000 mark with 290,000 plus votes. Okay, so those, if the fan vote truly counted, those should have been the people that we wound up with last night with the announcement. Those should be the ones who are being inducted. Fish, Bad Company, Billy Idol, Cyndi Lauper, Joe Cocker, Soundgarden, and Chubby Checkers Chubby Checker. I always want to add an S to his name. all should have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if the fan vote truly counted. But now I'm looking at this, and the way they announced it, they've got a little placard here, and everything is in yellow. I think in one of my videos, I said it's highlighted in green. It's kind of a green yellow from what I can see. And at the top, it says fans ballot. Now, notice what it doesn't say there. It doesn't say fans ballots. One ballot. 2 million, 2.5 million plus votes, one ballot. And that one ballot has to compete against the other ballots. And who has the other ballots? Well, the other ballots are by artists, not necessarily rock and roll artists, by the way, and music executives in the music industry, not necessarily music executives in the rock and roll music industry, right? And music historians, those who cover the history of not necessarily, once again, rock history, but music history. Okay? So I think it's a pretty good given that there's a fair amount of these fans that voted who are hardcore rock and roll fans. I'm sure we've gotten more fans coming in who are newer fans and have been brainwashed by this organization into existing or into believing that LL Cool J is a rock god or that Missy Elliott is a rock goddess or that Dolly Parton is a rock goddess, or that Willie Nelson is a rock god. Because none of those people I just mentioned are rock anything to me. And there's a couple of them I'm a fan of. I'm not just a fan of rock music, it's my favorite style of music. But I go outside its bounds, right? But I also know when I go outside its bounds, I'm going outside its bounds. And we all have a right to love whatever kind of music we like. Okay? But this one single fan ballot that it took 2.5 million votes to tabulate has to go against all those people I just mentioned. Guess how many of them they are? Each of them having their own ballot. Over 1,200 of them. So now the fans have a say so of a 1 to 1,200 ratio. Not much of a voice. Now, I also explained that there is one thing that's brought up from the other side who believe that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is healthy, wealthy, and just ready to thrive for the rest of its existence. They're wrong, in my opinion, but everybody has an opinion. And they all say this, and I will acknowledge that this is one good thing about the fan voting process, is that as the fans vote, let's say, and I used an example of Billy Joel. Billy Joel is a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All right, he's not just, he's not just the president. But I'm not just a member of the Rock and Roll. I'm the president. Whatever that old commercial was, right? But what was it last year? He sent out a letter saying, "Damn it, we've got to get Warren Zevon in," and he went up on the list. He didn't win, although there's some good news concerning him this year. But imagine that kind of power. So now, if Billy Joel is keeping track, and we have to assume that a lot of these people aren't, they don't give a damn what the fans, what the masses think. They're the Cretans, after all. We're the royalty. Let them eat cake. Promise them this, that, and the other thing. Right? That's what we are to these people, some of these people. But there is a hope that the more humble members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will take into account these 2 million plus views and it could possibly change their mind. Now, the reason I don't hold too much hope for that is I've done too many videos on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If you're new to this stream, You ought to go to my when you're done with this stream, go to my playlist on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have sliced and diced this organization up so many times. I've named names and everything, and I've covered some of its history, what its original intent is, and everything. And I just saw a video. What was the first rap and hip hop artist, and I'm not going to remember it because I don't think, did I not put that in my notes? I'll bet you I didn't. But it happened in 2000. I thought it happened in, was it 2007? Or was that when Run DMZ was in? But they were 2 years later. One was 2007, one was 2009, I believe. The first time that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kind of took a definite sharp left and or a sharp right, depending on how you're viewing those two musical genres. Maybe they took a sharp left and a right to inculcate both rap and hip hop. So that's been a relatively new thing. But now at this point, 18 years long, and we've seen it time and time again, the original kind of assumptions and unwritten rules as to what rock and roll was, is, or should be being ignored. And I've also done videos where I have done my viewpoint on how hip hop and rap have inner city connections where rock and roll and the blues and even country have a more urban connection, rural connection, and that's where the dividing is between them. And whether you believe that hip hop or rap artists should be in, I don't. Okay. Once again, so that's where I'll be coming from tonight as well. All right. Now, before I get on with this, I want to bring out something. I'm not, I'm not against hip hop or rap or any style of music, classical music, bluegrass, country, rock and roll, right? Jazz. I'm not against that. And I'm not against each of those styles of music having their own um, Hall of Fame, Hip Hop Hall of Fame. And I could understand if the Hip Hop Hall of Fame never inducted the Beatles. Okay, I would be understanding of that. What I don't understand is why so many have taken a stand where when somebody like me comes up and says, but that ain't what I call rock and roll, to quote the Dire Straits, right? Why are you so offended by that? Okay, you're free and clear to do that. Why is it so important for you and your stars to be in this playground? Okay, and most of the time you'll get them finally admitting that, well, yeah, but those would be new organizations. There's power, there's history with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all reasons not to just let anybody in, by the way, right? You don't put Bjorn Borg, you know, in the football or the NFL Hall of Fame or whatever, right? There are differences. I mean, a few of us still got our eyes open, our ears open, and there are different beginnings. And it doesn't matter that if you've got, for example, a lot of the reasonings these days is, was it LL Cool J that John Sykes had to talk in because he goes, I don't want to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I had respect for that. I hope it's him. And he had to go back and talk to him and say, well, yeah, but you've told me in the past that you were really influenced by this person out of the 60s. And did you know that person out of the 60s, their records were played right along with the Beatles, Stones, and whatever? Well, a lot of music was played in the 60s and 70s right along with the Beatles and Stones, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. That was never considered rock and roll. For example, Sammy Davis Jr., you may love the song or hate it. I'm not crazy about it at all, but the Candyman. Not at one, that was played right next to it, and then you'd hear a whole lot of love with Led Zeppelin as the next track. That don't make Sammy Davis Jr. a rock god, Okay. And just because a hip hop or a rap artist really loved this by X, let's say that was since I can't remember who it was that he was talking about, but let's just say, no, you said you liked, Sammy Davis Jr. And his stuff was played right next to Led Zeppelin. So you see, LL, you're kind of a rock god, reinventing history, reinventing vernacularism as we've seen all over this planet for the last 10 years, right? A group of wishful thinkers. And it um, I think it dilutes whatever style of music or discipline when you don't hold it to its core elements. All right. There's some core elements. Now, rock and roll has a ton of subgenres. And I've said it before. You have to kind of have this kind of wider palette when you talk about rock and roll to begin with. And a lot of people who are all for, and by the way, the reason they're using the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is also because of the power of the name rock and roll. Okay. That term has a ton of power. The hip hop or rap doesn't have, it has a pedigree. Hip hop or rap doesn't have that kind of pedigree. They want that pedigree, right? To connect them to an earlier source and see, oh, what a good boy am I? Or what a good gal am I? I'm a rocker now. Some of them even thinking, well, yes, I'm a rock star now, and even naming their latest album, Rockstar. Totally out of it as far as I'm concerned. Not even in touch with reality, but a lot of people from the Hollywood crowd, the music business. I mean, they're all interconnected. And a lot of them are wishful thinking. Well, this is the way I think planet Earth should be. Like, this is what I want. Everybody holds hands, kumbaya, and it's all rock and roll to me. Well, I'm sorry. I'm a musician. There are elements to rock and roll that don't quite fit that. So here we are with the final ballot. And the fans didn't have much to say. Now, I want to go over to who actually made it. And I got to be honest with you, folks, this is not the worst list that I've ever seen. Okay, when I think about it, it's not the worst list they've ever come up with, especially in the last 10 years. I'm going to go ahead and read. Now, you remember, first of all, we had Fish, Bad Company, Billy Idol, Cyndi Lauper, Joe Cocker, Soundgarden, Chubby Checker. The new seven, because those aren't the seven that made it, and I kind of called that last night, didn't I? All right. The one I was trying to call it and saying, you know what, there's even, and I was scared that this might happen. That Mariah Carey could still get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, even though she didn't do well enough to get onto the highlighted section of the fans' votes. And how I've explained how the fan votes go, what that ballot's worth, would indicate and tell you, yeah, there was a reason for me to be nervous, wasn't there? So she didn't make it, all right, but others in that lower echelon did. Two others, all right. So Bad Company made it, all right. And I also did a video where Simon Kirk had claimed to talk to a insider on Friday. I put that video out on Saturday, and he said Monday it would be, but it was announced last night. And he said that he had been assured that they were going to get in. So I kind of broke that story a little early, right? So they did make it. Evidently, he wasn't blowing smoke out of his arse, right? And that he definitely had been talking to one of the power mongers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah, baby.
Storm Cup has a request.
Mm-hmm.
He says, if you don't mind, will you go over what the basic rule is for being nominated to the list?
Yeah, let me get to that in a minute. Remind me of that again, Storm Cop, and Kimberly, be on the lookout of
Okay.
reminding me.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, because I don't want to break my stride here, James.
Okay.
But That's a good question. All right. Um, so Bad Company made it. Chubby Checker made it. Joe Cocker made it. Cyndi Lauper made it. And Soundgarden made it. All voted by the fans. But there were two more: Outcast and the White Stripes. Now, when I go back to the list, first of all, the White Stripes, yeah, they're rock and roll. I'm not a great big White Stripes fan, but I recognize why people are. I see them as a legit rock act and even worthy of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Um, I got a tickle in my throat, folks. Uh, but if I had my druthers, I think I could name close to 100 people. I have so on one of my past videos who should be in it before them, right? So this is a little quick, but I'm not going to haggle off that. Others have come and got it in their first year or the first year that they were ever, inductable, right? So I don't have too much of a problem with that. But let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, the White Stripes were in 11th place, right? And they will be inducted. Now, Outcast was in 12th place, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12th place, and have nothing to do with rock and roll. So it's almost like, and they did horrible. They were third to last with fans. So a whole lot of people with ballots that are members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame totally discounted the fans' votes. They took one of the lesser bands and put them up there. And guess who they didn't out of the lesser bands? How about Oasis? How do you justify Outcast over Oasis? How do you justify Outcast over Joy Division and New Order, for that matter? How do you justify Outcast over the Black Crows? And and they leaped over every one of those but one, Oasis. They barely beat Oasis in the fan vote, which tells me that there are fans that are okay with hip hop. And I know most people who defend the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and its trajectory, its recent trajectory, will always say, well, it's really just kind of the Music Hall of Fame at this point. And I've always said this. Well, then, damn it, rename it, and I'll shut my mouth. I probably wouldn't even cover it from now on. But they're using the term rock and roll, right? One of the earliest magazines that helped promote rock and roll would be Rolling Stone, right along with Cream and, Guitar Player and all those. The Guitar Player was more for musicians, but there was a bunch of them that I used to collect as a kid, right? And Jan Winter was the head of that, and they did a great job. His original vision was wonderful. I was an early fan of his, believe it or not, until he turned into the monster he became. And I've already spent way too much time talking about Jan Winter. I used to call him Jan Wiener Boy, you know. I just, but then he and Ahmet Ertegun and probably a few others, but those were the names that rose, were the ones, the instigators of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it was very early on that Ahmet, I said this in my video, that he wanted Bad Company right from the get-go, and Paul Rodgers turned him down twice. And yet here we see Paul Rodgers making all kinds of kind of cool, I'm honored and all of that now, when he thought rock and roll should live, not be a museum. That was his entire reasoning, right? But I'll tell you, there's also another problem with this list. Who's missing? What is the big missing ticket item here? Well, there's actually, let's see, I read two. Yeah, there was two. First of all, Billy Idol was in second place just at the last second, kind of taken over by Bad Company. As this voting was going on, Bad Company was as low as number 4. Finally got up to number 3. Billy Idol was number 2. And at the last bit, Billy Idol is number 3. The top 3 fan votes were Fish, Bad Company, and Billy Idol. And only Bad Company out of those 3 are going to be inducted. Fish, number 1, with a third of a million votes, didn't make the cut. Now, I'm not too familiar with Fish. I heard some of their cuts before making my videos. And I think somebody who said kind of calls them an updated Grateful Dead would probably be more accurate than less accurate, maybe. And I'm not a great Grateful Dead. I love some of the stuff they did, but I didn't collect their albums, right? And I recognize them and Led Zeppelin are probably the 2 greatest jam bands on the planet. That them and Led Zeppelin practically had a family following them, and the Dead are even probably more well known for having the Deadheads that followed them over the decades. I knew people who had Grateful Dead live recordings in suitcases packed up. Oh, yes, this is from April of 1971 at Golden Gate Park or wherever they were playing, right? Those fans are nuts, right? So Fish has got a lot of fans, and I would imagine it comes from fans of that style of music, right? Great band and everything, earned their stripes, and they're knocked off the number 1 spot, right? For the likes of Outcast and who was the other one that kind of took the other spot that I was, the White Stripes, okay? The White Stripes. And when you look at the White Stripes votes here, 110, they got well over 3 times the votes that the White Stripes got. But evidently, not so with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members, right? So there we have a completely readjusted list of inductees. Now, let's take a look at the list in general. Bad Company, Rock, Chubby Checker, Rock, Joe Cocker, Rock, Cyndi Lauper, Rockish. Okay. Like I said, she wouldn't be one that I would ever nominate to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I see her more as a pop singer, but she has rock attitude. And I said when I first started covering this list earlier in the year, I have no trouble with her being on the list. If that was the weak spot, in my opinion, I know a lot of you are going, but girls just want to have fun. Damn it, Michael, she needs to be in there, right? Um, and I like her stuff, right? Never turned off her music. Uh, she's a fine performer, and better her than Mariah Carey, because I was really worried we were going to see Mariah Carey on this list, and I predict right now she'll be on the list of nominations next year. Somebody in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame wants her in. Somehow, I'll bet you she just missed it by a hair this year, too, because she was doing too many interviews all throughout this year. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. I'd be so disappointed if I didn't. Well, I guess she's disappointed, and I'm glad she's not in. We've staved her off for 2 years. Let's hope we can go a third. Maybe people will lose interest. I doubt it. Like I said, I don't care for her, but my wife and my daughter, my youngest daughter, absolutely adore her, think she's wonderful. I don't. But Cyndi Lauper, yeah, if that was the weak spot, if that's my one weak spot on this list, I'd be going, this is a pretty damn good list. But then we have to look at Outcast. And it doesn't stop there. All right. I want to go over to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and how they're covered here. All right. Now, I want to get back to James's comment about the process and everything. From what I understand, first of all, the nominating committee, James, and this is in answer to your basic question there. has all been, they are put there by being assigned to it. And often, from what I understand, most of the assignments have come from the board of directors, and certainly the head of the board of the directors or the chairman of the board to the nominating committee itself. And that has traditionally been Jan Winter. And of course, Jan Winter, was that 2 years ago? He put out a book, maybe it was even 3 years ago, that he put out a book, and he highlighted interviews from famous rockers that he liked interviewing. Some people noticed that there were no black rockers in the book, nor were there any women. When he was asked about that, he turned around and said, "Well, I have often found them not to be as eloquent." So, proven himself ultimately to be not only a racist but a misogynist on top of that. And that ain't the politics of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've discussed that they have this new enlightened view on everything in the world, and they can't very well have a confirmed racist and misogynist on board. So he was removed. But all the people that are on the nominating committee, a vast majority of them were placed there by him or by someone deputized by him that had that kind of power. All handpicked people. Now, James, I've also talked about who's on that nominating committee, and you'd have to go back to my videos because I'm doing this all on memory right now. But again, go to my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame playlist on my channel, and I get into names, places, and events. And there, that nominating committee is made up of a whole lot of music executives and publishers from the hip hop and rap industry. So the cards have already been stacked. The deck has already been stacked in their favor for these kinds of changes that we started seeing around 2007. Okay. So there is why we get outcasts. There is the reason why we get Mariah Carey, right? And then on top of all of that, the chairman of the board, the new one, again placed directly in his position by Jan Winter. So we're going to see more of a chip off the old block than we're going to see a person who's going to rectify wrongs of the past with the organization. He's just going on pitter patter as Jan was. And every year for the last 3 years, he's put out a statement that slightly reclarifies what he thinks rock and roll is. And I covered that statement earlier in the year today, saying that if a rap artist or a hip hop artist claims ties to a style of music that was heard alongside rock and roll back in the day, then that's as good as being rock and roll. It's ludicrous. And on top of that, he's also made statements regarding what was it that he said? That first of all, if you've got that, that's it. I had a brain fart there for a moment. He's also reclarified that since people like Missy Elliott had a gospel background, right? That many rockers had a gospel background. So they both got their stuff from the same seed, right? And so they're like, that's why she's considered a rock god now. No, she's not. Wake up. But yeah, officially she is, right? Well, here's the problem with that. I knocked that one right out of the park, James, in one of my videos 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, something like that, where I said that um, Billy Preston had a gospel background. That's where he came from, baby. Then he got connected to Little Richard, started doing that, met the Beatles while Little Richard was touring England. I think the Beatles were at the bottom of the bill. Richard, I'm sure it flip flopped before too much longer after that. But that's where they met Billy Preston. That's why Billy Preston was there during Let It Be. That's why there was talk of even Billy Preston joining the Beatles for a short period of time as a fifth member, right? And but he came out of a gospel background, and that gospel background affected his playing as he played in what arena, folks? Hip hop? No. Oh, well, then he must have been a rapper. No. He played in the rock arena. Okay. He was a rocker with a gospel background. Missy Elliott is, what is she even? I guess she must be hip hop, right?
She is. She's rap, hip hop, yeah.
Rap, hip hop? Yeah. See? Anyway, um, she is we'll call her hip hop. She is a hip hop artist with a gospel background. All right. The two don't meet there. But this is what John Sykes' sole mission has been for the last few years. And on top of that, the reason we've got better lists these last 2 years, and last year wasn't great, um, a great list, but even I had to admit it was better than it had been in the past then, right? So that's where it all goes. You wonder why these people and how they get in. First of all, there's a mantra that exists. And ever since John Sykes has taken over, he's made sure that that mantra gets an updated edition every year. And pretty soon he'll say, if you shit in your pants when you were 2 years old, you're a rocker, because that's where they're going. And it is this all inclusion thing. Now, I'm all right with people being inclusive in life, but you don't take it to the point that you can't identify, well, that's a square and that's a circle. No, no. I wish the circle to be a rectangle. Well, you can wish it all you want, it don't change it, right? And there are elements to rock that I've come to identify, and hip hop and rap are, it's not a bad form of music. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it ain't rock and roll. Okay. Now, there was also, let me see if I can find it, this article I found, and it's interesting. I'm only going to read a little bit of it to you, but this ought to give you an idea. So, who's reporting on this? Well, I found an article. Let's see. This one's just saying, oh, USA Today, from a Melissa Ruggieri. Melissa Ruggieri. And notice how she starts her article. The Boys Club that comprises this year's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class also contains a female solo musician who has always been a striking presence, Cyndi Lauper. And out of all of these, with the exception of Outkast, she's the one I would say doesn't quite fit, but boy, see, this is a victory to her as she's reporting. We can't tell that Melissa here, the reporter, the writer, doesn't have an agenda herself. I mean, look at how she started that whole thing up. And that's part of the problem with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is a lot of political nonsense in the air, to quote Paul McCartney. She goes on to say she's among the 7 new inductees, whittled from a list of 14 announced earlier this year, who spotlight a more conventional rock lineup, accepting Atlanta hip hop innovators, Outkast, than the genre diverse classes of recent years. Boy, she's got that lingo down, doesn't she? I mean, she's dripping with it, isn't she, folks? She says all the right things, she uses all the right phrases, and she includes them all in the right spots, doesn't she? Look at that. It was a more conventional. See, she's on low boil there. And then there's a line, accepting, semicolon, Atlanta hip hop innovators, right? So it's a boys' club to her. And the only exception for the evening, the only exceptional talent was Cyndi Lauper and Outkast, who are the two inductees I have the biggest problem with. Okay. But this is how it gets reported the next day. All right. Filled with buzzwords.
Royce is going live in 30 minutes, Divining said.
What's that?
Royce is going live in 30 minutes.
No, I didn't know Royce was streaming tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't get any heads up on that. Well, good luck with that, Royce. Maybe he doesn't know I'm streaming. I don't know what's up with that. So I want to get back to this whole thing. All right. So there are the results, right? And compare the results from last year. I mean, we got Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes compared to last year's list. Mary J. Blige, Cher, Dave Matthews Band, which is at least rock oriented. Peter Frampton, yeah, that was good. Cool in the Gang, okay. And I've discussed why I was okay with that. And Ozzy Osbourne, definitely good in A Tribe Called Quest. All right. And that was an improvement from the year before. Keep that all in mind. All right. So I'm going to turn my attention to some of the chat right now. And I wanted to see if I can get a flavor of what some of you guys are thinking. I'm going to go up toward the beginning, but I'm going to try and hit it where you start making, and it'll be whatever kind of flies out here. If I don't get to your comment, please understand there is tons of comments here, and I always like to comment on your comment, give it some highlight and everything. Let's see. Yeah, and Billy Idol. What happened to him? Right? I just saw this. Fantastic. I just saw that. Let me make sure. Jason Ladd, I'm going to get back to your comment. Billy Idol has some great tunes. Rebel Yell alone is worth a bunch of missies. Damn right it is. And he was definitely rock and roll. What the hell happened to him, Jason? All right, let me get down to here. Ben Scheidecker, thank you so much, Ben. Brand new moderator to the channel. Greetings, just joining in. Rock and roll as an art form is under siege. I love the term. By rock and roll Hall of Shame. I've called it that many times, Ben. Mariah Carey and others shouldn't have been nominated to begin with. Meanwhile, they snub the good. And thank you so much for that. You know, I've said it before. When you guys give your super thanks, you are keeping this channel afloat. So I appreciate every single one of them, whether it's $2 or more. A lot of content creators are having a tough time these days, but this channel has been hit hard. We've been losing subscribers, and I'm getting all kinds of complaints from people who are saying they're being taken off. That's beyond my power. I don't even have the power to remove subscribers unless I ban you from the channel, right? And I don't do that. I'm not saying I never would. It would have to be for something very good, but I like to keep an open discussion for the channel, right? And I don't know if it's just I'm seen as one of those personalities that are just a little too, I don't know, bare truth naked by the powers that be. You know, there's a lot of powers that be that chose this list for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've discussed that tonight, and it happens elsewhere. I'll let you guys read between the lines. So you're keeping us alive. Thank you so much, Ben. I'm going to get back up here and see what else you guys have. Hey, Between Two Guitars, I haven't seen you in a while. Rest in peace to the real John Sykes. Yeah, he just passed away. You're absolutely right. Don Moore, Timothy, I have a movie version on C. Okay, you're talking about something else there. Deuces Wild. Missy Elliott wears a trash bag and says, "Let me work it." An unreal talent. Divining Dragon, Storm Cop. We don't need to get the names. We want to see. Okay, I'm not quite catching up on that. Yeah, part of the problem is me coming in the middle of a discussion, and I'm trying to kind of get what you guys are saying about this. Let's see. Troy Astro. Billy Preston was rock and roll. Rap will never be rock. Billy Idol has some great tunes. Okay, yeah. I had gotten to Jason's there again. Don Moore. Hang on, Sloopy. He's asking.
Oh,
My
Michael
goodness.
just gave you a super
Oh,
thank
Michael, thank you so much.
you.
I hope my Michael just asked me a serious question. Was that on my latest stream, Michael? And I tried to give you a very detailed answer about. I'm trying to remember what it was because you had a very serious question you asked me. Let me read your thing here. Most of the inductees don't have enough sales or new concept to make the Rock and Roll Hall. Most of the inductees don't have enough sales or new concept to make the Rock and Roll Hall. Okay, so what do you mean by that? Most of the inductees don't have enough sales. I know that, oh my goodness, another one coming. I'll get to you in a second, Deuces. I want to make sure I'm understanding this by Michael here. Or new concept to make the Rock Hall. It seems to me that most of the inductees these days uh, are safe inductees who have a lot to offer, Michael, uh, as far as finances and power structure and sales. I mean, that's why, I don't care for, but I can tell you absolutely 100% that, uh, what's her name that you guys like and I can't stand? I've already forgotten her. Um, Babe,
Um, Mariah Carey.
your favorite, I can't stand her. I just mentioned her about 1,000 times.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey. Thank you. All right. I was still trying to decipher Michael's message there, but they've got a lot to offer. I think that's why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is going the way. I saw that. I saw that. It's going to take me a minute to catch up here, isn't it?
I know, so sweet.
So I think that's why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is trying to do what it's doing. That's where the money is. As a matter of fact, I talked about, me and another content creator had a disagreement on it. He sees it more as a business. They should just worry about selling tickets to the building and getting a larger audience who will watch commercials while it's being presented on TV in whatever fashion, and they have a right to do it. And I agree with them doing that, but you don't rename it and you don't rebrand it and you don't fill it with a bunch of, ringers that you need to generate that kind of cash. As a matter of fact, the very fact that they have a right to do it is what makes me question whether they should do it. All right. Okay, so thank you, Michael. And I did try to give you a very involved answer. It's not coming to me, and I've got these other two that I've got to check here before I go on. But Michael always asks very specific questions, and he's not afraid to test me and everything. And I love that. I don't have nobody has to always agree with me. Like I've said many times, Deuces Wild gave us $5. The history and the stories of the musicians are just as fascinating as the music itself. Ain't that the truth? Uh, Music lore has a life on its own, as far as I'm concerned, and it certainly does. I mean,
here comes Helene.
I see that. Oh my goodness! Uh, I'm going to get to you in a second, Helene. Thank you, Deuces, and I agree with that 100%. Okay, the stories. Think about Helene, who I'll get to here in a minute. I know she likes Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and Pink Floyd. I think Helene and I share our three top favorite bands. If I'm wrong, let me know, Helene. But as memory serves, I do recall that. And Helene, I do remember that she is a great reader of books. Since I've started the channel, it's been harder for me to read the books I used to, but so am I. How many times have you read the stories of the Beatles? How many times have you read Led Zeppelin stories and all about, mud sharks at a hotel? No, never mind. Anyway, we might not want to dwell on that. But the stories are galore, right? So thank you so much, Deuces. Richard Mueller, Tribal Elder. Over 100 watching. Congrats. I just had noticed that it hit 101, and now I'm noticing we're up by 5 more. We're at 106 now. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And Richard Mueller sends along $5. Again, we couldn't do it without you. And then let me make sure. My God, there's a ton of people already talking after our latest super thanks, Helene, and she just gives us $5. Thank you so much. I hope you saw my comment back to you, Helene, and it has been corrected. Um, when I do all of my shout outs, guys, I'm the one that types in your names. I'm the one that creates the whole thing you see.
You just got another.
I saw that. I'll be right with you, Rockin' Robin Bird. Boy, what do we do tonight, Kimberly? But anyway, spell correct. And I'm often editing to 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes, depending on how late I shot, right? That's why you see my videos come out at whatever time. I shoot it, I edited it, and then I get it out. I upload it and then it's out. I publish, right? I don't have a set time. That's why it's a good thing to hit that notification bell so that you know when my videos first come out. And I had Helene was one of those who is a tribal chieftain, and I guess it called you Helen, didn't it, Helene? Right. Well, I saw your thing. I responded back to you in case you haven't seen it. And I went into my editing program and I fixed it right there. So it's all fixed. You'll get the proper shout out and you won't be Helen no more. Right? Helen, Hell on Wheels. Love that song. All right. So let's get on back up here to where you kind folks have been talking some more. Um, Let's see. Somebody's talking about, hey, wait a minute. Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin? That ain't rock and roll. That's swing and jazz. Well, I agree. I agree. And I love both of those singers. I'm a fan. I love crooners. Grew up with crooners. Dean Martin, everybody loves somebody. You know how he does that little, great fan of him. But I wouldn't nominate him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Into a what? A crooners Hall of Fame, maybe? Romantic Singers Hall of Fame. I don't know what you'd call them. Sinatra could be in a Jazz Hall of Fame. Not so sure that Dean Martin would fit into that. But any of the Rat Pack, loved them. Michael Boswell. Most of the inductees don't have enough sales. Okay, we talked about that. Royce is in. How you doing, brother? Somebody told me you're going to be live in a half hour. Had no idea you were going. What's going on with you? Let me know. Or do you just have a pre-made that's set to go off at a time? I didn't get a notification, and I set this notification last night. So if we've bumped into each other, brother, I'm sorry about that. Never was my intention, and I know it's never your intention. So, but if Royce does have a video out, be sure to go on over there. I haven't had to check. Let everybody know in the chat, Royce, if you've got something that's come out today. And after I'm done with my my stream, I'll be sure to get on over there. So go ahead and let me know. Timothy O'Hara, I don't think I've seen you before, Timothy, not by the last name. I went.
Oh, here comes just the facts, man. He gave you a super.
Oh my goodness! I'll get right to you, Dan. Oh boy, what do you do, Timothy O'Hara? What happened to you, brother? Where did you go? There it is. I went to a concert in Cleveland at the old ballpark, which was near the right field bullpen. Spectacular show. Yeah, you know what? We were talking about last night a little bit about the differences in venues versus residencies, and that is one of the things that the ballparks.
Here comes Michael Boswell.
I see that. I see that. I'm going to have to get to you guys here in a moment, Otherwise, I'll just be answering those all day. But my goodness, this has just been a wonderful evening. You guys have set my heart aflutter, Let's see. Helene Spalding, got to run. Dinner calls. Nice to see you all. Bye, guys. And bye to you, Helene. And thank you once again. Helene, a major factor in the growth of my channel, folks. She shared
Oh,
some of my
wow.
videos.
Tacitus Jones just gave you a super thanks.
Thank you, Tacitus.
Oh
I'll
my
be with
goodness.
I've got three of you I've got to acknowledge, and I'll get to you in a minute.
Oh,
I did want to say that Helene shared my video with a pretty big YouTube content creator,
wow.
Soul Train Bro, and he featured me. And quite contrary to the troll that showed up on Royce's channel last night, who claimed that I buy subscriptions, nothing could be further from the truth. That is such bullshit. The growth of my channel is so well documented, and I have photographic evidence of every single subscriber I've ever gotten. All right. So, whoever you were last night, cram it up your
Wow.
thing. That's all I can say. Right. And it's because of the support of such fine people who are giving us super thanks tonight that this channel has grown as
Tacitus
well.
Jones, who gave you a super thanks. Did you
Hmm.
read his? It's your thoughts. He wants your thoughts on Warren Zevon getting a musical influence award from the hall,
Yes.
but not recognized as a full inductee.
Yes, and that's a good point. I'm going to get to Tacitus' comment here in a minute, babe. Thanks for bringing that up because I'm glad you did, by the way, because that reminds me of the other aspect I wanted to cover tonight. Okay, because we're going to talk about not just the top seven. All right. Just the facts, man. Great show, Michael. Have a drink on me. I certainly will, brother. And Dan, you know what I feel about you. I've said it so many times on this show. Dan goes back almost as far as I knew Royce, because as far as me knowing him, showing up on the chat there over on Royce, and the both of them brought me along. I've said it until I'm blue in the face, and I thank you so much for your financial support, Dan. You are an ace. Michael Boswell, again, oh my goodness. White Stripes or Cyndi Lauper, do they have the hits, record sales, or originality to be deserving of the Rock Hall? Outcast isn't even rock. And yeah, Cyndi Lauper, she had a short string of hits there that were mega hits. White Stripes, not so much, at least as far as being, big hits that had a crossover hit on it. But I do know that one of the original statements, and they still go with this, is it is based on influence as well. And they've even tried to kind of jerry rig that influence into the new definition. So, uh, for example, you'll find, people looking for people like Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters, and things because they influenced that which became rock and roll, even though they were probably close to straight ass blues. But to me, blues, any blue you're talking rock and roll, it's proto rock and roll, even at its very bare bones. Okay, so influence does count. Sales, I think sales are important, right? And you know what? I'm almost thinking, Michael, that there's a blurb going on, a bump against Mariah Carey. Does she have some enemies in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because I fully expected to see Cyndi Lauper off the list and Mariah Carey inserted firmly where she is, right? Uh, because she kind of fits the new description of what they want in there. And I think that maybe, I don't know, did she hurt somebody's feelings? We don't know what goes on in the background. She certainly done enough interviews where she thought she had a chance. So, and I would imagine by this new group of voters, this new nominating committee, and this new block of 1,200 members who would vote for it, I would have thought. That's why I even brought her up specifically on last night's stream. I thought she was going to be there. I really did. I didn't quite say I predicted. I wasn't feeling that um, confident of my thoughts on the fact that I thought she'd be there. But that's why I used her as an example in last night's stream, was to make that point that she could very well be there. And then if she had wound up, I could have said I called it in a sort of offhand sort of way, right? All right, now I'm finally down to Tacit's comment here. Your thoughts on Warren Zevon getting the Musical Influence Award from the Hall, but not recognized as a full inductee? Yeah, because he missed it last year. He didn't get past the nominating process, and he wouldn't have been on that nominating um, process to begin with, Tacitus, if it or Tacitus, yeah, Tacitus, if it hadn't been for Billy Joel writing a letter to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and demanding that he be put on a list of nominees, right? And he didn't survive that. But this year, again, you know Billy Joel's involved. He's still a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Evidently, by that very letter, he holds a lot of power. His name is worth just more than his single vote. He talk about an influencer, right, with a zillion hits himself, singer songwriter more than just pure rock and roll, but definitely a rock artist, pop rock, but definitely rock and roll. And I'm a Billy Joel fan, but I'll be critical of it. I was critical of the letter. I didn't think that one member should have that kind of power to influence who didn't get on the nominating list and who didn't survive on to the inductee list because they had to put Warren Zevon on that list, although I made it clear that Warren Zevon deserved to be on that list. All right, I was happy that he was on the list. My only criticism was how he got there. You know, one person wishing it so and making it so, in other words, right? Okay, so, but that does get back to your point, and I did say I wanted to kind of cover that aspect of it, and that's the other part of here. Um, there are, first of all, the Ahmet Ertegun Award was given to Lenny Waronker. Now, Lenny started off, I think, with his dad's record label. What was that called? Uh, he wound up with Warner before it was over, and they had Liberty Records. Liberty Records. Okay, and at first he eventually became an A&R man, artist and repertoire, right? This is somebody the music industry had to represent and push an artist. He was also the go-between between monies owed the artist and what the artist was expected and how they were expected to dance for all that money, right? And they were often the ones who would find new talent, and early A&R people was good before the industry just stocked them full of juniors in short pants that couldn't find their way out of a Denny's restaurant uh, to save their freaking life. Lenny is more old school. He even was a bit of a musician, put together important demos that became hits and everything, and then became a very major player with Warner Brother Records. So, as far as the Ahmet Ertegun Award, which usually is given to people of this ilk, you know, non artists, but people in the business, and I looked him up. I wasn't aware of him before. I had to look him up. I would go, okay, for that award, that's not bad, right? Then we got down to the Musical Excellence Award. You had Tom Bell, all right, Thomas Bell or Tom Bell. He spells it Thumb Bell, but if you look at his real name, it's Thomas. So I'm imagining he just added the H to be kind of cute, you know. But it's still Tom Bell. If I'm wrong, let me know, folks. You guys often know more than me. And he had a very early career. I had no problem with him. He came from that which was connected to rock, not just was listened next to rock, but often would fill the airwaves and almost have, you know, there was a ton of people. I said it was about 2007 when they started putting hip hop and rap people in. But right from the outset, I looked at the history of it. They were sure to filter in rhythm and blues and soul artists pretty damn early. And if I had been real critical, even in those earlier years, I might have said, look, we need to even draw a line with that. But soul, especially when you think of artists like the Supremes, I mean, my God, you know, there's just something that you can call them soul or pop or Motown, all you want, but there's just something kind of rock and roll. Often there's, especially the subjects of their songs, Marvin Gaye, the acts like that. So I had no trouble with Tom Bell being in there. And you guys know I have no trouble with Nicky Hopkins. One of my most successful videos is when I covered a night, was it May 1966, recording session with Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, uh, Keith Moon, and was that it? I know that Entwistle was supposed to show up, but he didn't, and Nicky Hopkins on that. And that lineup almost became Led Zeppelin 2 years before Led Zeppelin became Led Zeppelin. The name was even bandied about. He's played with the Stone. Who hasn't Nicky Hopkins played for? Right? So absolutely deserving of this award. And another major winner for, like I said, when you look at the whole list this year, it ain't as bad as it's been. And many of you know, I'd be the first one to tell you what a joke this list was. And there are a couple of giggles on it. But what about Carol Kay? All right. Now, for those of you who don't know who Carol Kay is, she's a bass player who worked with a group of musicians who were collectively kind of known underground then, and now by many, especially since excellent documentary on them was put together by one of their sons, one of the musician's sons, as a tribute to these guys. And of course, I'm talking about the famous Wrecking Crew, a group of anywhere from 7 to 18 musicians, and the membership of the Wrecking Crew fluctuates on depending on who is reporting on who was in the Wrecking Crew, right? Everybody has their different theories, but I can tell you nobody disagrees with the fact that Carol Kay, a woman bassist at a time in a studio, the only women that were showing up playing traditional orchestral instruments that women traditionally played. She was breaking barriers here. And she's also one of my favorite top 10 bass players in rock. Okay. She has been on more records than you know. You've heard her many times. I'm telling you right now, you've heard her hundreds of times if you ever listen to classic rock radio. And she was integral to making that so-called West Coast sound. She's on Monkees records. She's on Beach Boy records. She's everywhere. She's everywhere. And she is a giant in rock and roll. And I was so glad to see. I didn't know she was even up for consideration. That got us to Warren Zevon, Musical Influence Award. And this is the one they usually give to people who somebody, a group within the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame membership, feels like, well, we got to give him something. Billy won't get off our back. Billy Joe still, we can't even let them know. He wrote us another letter, you know. So, God, give Warren something. And I think that's what happened this year. And Salt and Pepper was put in there just because they couldn't get in Mariah Carey. That's a joke. Okay. But out of these you've got one, two, three, four, five, six subcategories: musical influence, or six artists under either musical influence, musical excellence, or the Ahmet Ertegun Award. And I would say 5 out of 6 belong there. And out of the 7, I would even go with 6 out of the 7 being okay. I'm going to quit bitching about Cyndi Lauper. I like her music. I thought she was cute as a bug. I liked her videos. I liked her hairstyle. She dresses real rock and roll. When you hear her talk, she's got the attitude of rock and roll. I mean, I'm a fan of hers. I just thought, well, if we're going to be a purist, but even then, I could make an argument for her. So 6 out of 7, 5 out of 6, right? Was that 6 on that bottom list? A total of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So 13, 11 choices they made this year that I don't have a whole lot of trouble with. Now, having said that, I wouldn't have put the White Stripes in. I wouldn't have even nominated them yet. I think they could have waited. I wouldn't have put Outcast in. Salt and Pepper can kiss my aspirin bottle goodbye. Soundgarden, I think, was timely and should have been there. Cyndi Lauper, like I said, I'm okay with. Joe Cocker should have been there decades ago. Chubby Checker should have been there decades ago. I didn't know the man was still alive, and he's evidently fit to be tied. And I'm so glad that he's still around to at least see his name. I think somebody said he's 88 years old. See his name, rectified in rock and roll. The Twist was one of the biggest dance crazes, and you can't have rock and roll without Chubby Checker. And of course, the number one, the best choice of the evening was Bad Company. All right, that is a band that wasn't going to be getting in, I guess, mainly because Paul Rogers had left a bad taste in somebody's mouth. I don't think it was when he turned down Ermat Erdogan uh, twice, but maybe the scuttlebutt got around, and I can imagine Jan Winter taking a dislike to ever, and they'll get in the day hell freezes over. The same thing that he said about what was it, um, Foreigner, right? He was known to have, a very intimate list of rockers that would never get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if he ever had anything to say about it. And of course, he was a bit, thank God for him being a bit self destructive. Okay. Because even though I don't care for the current membership of Foreigner, and I have no plans to ever go see him, matter of fact, if I found that there was a Foreigner cover band, I'd love to go see that. But I'm not going to go see the one cover band that claims to be the real band when they're not. But I am a major Foreigner fan, loved everything they put out, and they deserved to be in. That was rectified last year. But watch out for next year, folks. All right. Because we have a couple of pop ups here. This isn't going to go away. All right. This idea to stretch this and pull this in all different directions. Okay. We already have, I just looked up one writer, and I wasn't looking for a female writer. I wasn't looking for a left wing writer or a right wing writer. I just typed up what I was looking for, and hers was the first uh, uh, article that I found, USA Today, that covered the basics. And as soon as I started reading, I go, wait a minute, who is this person? I was going to look up the name of the reporter or the writer just to do some research on him. And I didn't even need to. It was like, okay, female writer talking about female plights and problems. Like we don't already have enough of that bullshit in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're criticizing that what did they call it? The Boys Club? They're criticizing that it was a cock fest, right? And then is saying, but thank God, and then even more of uh, her agenda was revealed because she kind of skips over the rock and roll elements, highlights Outcast and highlights Cyndi Lauper only because she couldn't highlight Mariah Carey. All right. So that's what it gets down to. when you think about it in the end. All right. So before we cut this off tonight, I did want to kind of get to the bottom of this list. I'd never gotten very far down. Let me see if I can connect with some of you. Um, let's see. Uh, Retro Beat Repository. And by the way, thank you for your last super thanks, Retro Beat. Carol K is a virtuoso. Ask Brian Wilson. Damn right. Oh God. And she fit. She got harassed. There's a lot of you work with boys, locker room talk, and she had to nut it up. And she was raising kids, right? And nobody really cleaned up their language. She was a woman that had to work in a man's environment, and she didn't get her panties all in a twist over it. She learned to kind of bite back a little bit. My mom was like that. She went to work in an environment that traditionally hired men, and she put herself in there, and she was a strong woman, and she didn't get all hung up with, oh, my ears, you can't say that. Not my mom, right? Think about what you hear out of my mouth, folks. All right. My dad left early in my childhood. I got this language. I got this mouth from my mama. And I always have loved strong women who don't get their panties in a twist, because boys will be boys. God, good Lord, be real. Now, I'm the first guy in a locker room and there's a woman there, and that kind of locker room talk happens. I'll go quiet it down right now. There's a lady present, right? But I have a lot of respect for women if there's not a guy like me in the room who can handle the pressure and make inroads. And Carol K was so much that. So good point. Uh, Stephanie Harringtonio. I'm getting better, Stephanie. She says she was on Elvis and Beach Boy songs. Yeah, she was everywhere, everywhere. If you've listened to any classic rock radio, and I'm talking about just classic rock radio, all songs that had to at least be in the top 10 over the years. You've heard Carol Kay hundreds of times. I'm telling you, hundreds of separate times. She was on that much. Don Carroll played. Kathy Sandru says played on the Doors. Yes, Sonny and Cher. Yes, Monkeys, as I stated before. Yes, Sam Cooke. Yes, in a man's industry. And she did it. She's also a freaking great bass player. I don't care if she's woman or man, you know? And she's inventive. And she worked with a group of musicians who could be that's what they were known for. They'd break the rules. That's why they got the nickname Wrecking Crew, because some of the more traditional musicians who didn't want to show up on rock records, right? So there was this thing carved out for people who were willing to kind of go the distance, and they could make a lot of quick money because so much rock and roll or rock pop was being recorded. And the more traditional musicians would rather show up for an orchestra gig for a movie soundtrack or something like that. But they would say of these young upstarts, of which Carol Kay was at that time, would say they'll wreck the music industry. That's where they got and were called the Wrecking Crew, because they broke all the rules. And for the most part, there may have been one or two other women that were in and out, but the one constant female factor of the Wrecking Crew was always Carol Kay, and she's my favorite member of the Wrecking Crew. I'm a bassist, so I kind of like her just because of her instrument of choice. Deuces Wild, I'd like to start a channel too, focusing on different things. So hard to pick something though, because I have a million different interests. Yep, but you know what? If you do that and you choose to do your own channel and everything, let me know. Of course, I'll support you, Deuce. You've been doing well supporting me over here. Do it from something you know. Do it from something you love. Do it uh, with something that you can speak on with a bit of authority, and then give it every damn bit of energy you can muster. And I'll be there in your corner. Let me know. All right. Donna the Frank, been a while. Sonny and Cher, The beat goes on. Carol Kay on the bass, yeah, and one of rock's finest. Wow, what a walk-on bass that is, huh? Yeah, doom 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 doom. Oh God, I just love that. Oh, I love it. And by the way, when we're talking about Cher being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, I wasn't for that either. Now I liked some of her single songs. I wouldn't turn them off. Gypsies, Trams, and Thieves. Okay, well that's a cute little story. I'll listen to it. Right along with Michael Nesmith's "Her Name Was Joanne." I like those kind of songs. That's fine. But Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for that, no. But she did have a pedigree with Sonny and Cher. They were pop rock, okay, whether you liked them or not. And she would deserve to be in for that, but not as Cher. She should have been inducted, the both of them, as Sonny and Cher, and should have got her induction for that, not for that. I believe crap, right? In love, whatever that thing said. Al Val, no monkeys either. Yeah, no, yeah. And I believe the monkey should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, especially if you're going to be bringing in, you know, Mary Blige, Missy Elliott, LL Cool J, you know, you've got Dolly Parton and everything. I don't see why not. Absolutely do not see why not. Kimberly says, I will subscribe, deuces. So
Yeah.
you got two subscribers there, and you'll have the support of the channel. Uh, Let me know if there's anything we can do for you. I always try to support those who support me. Zep Earl, Vance is in the chat. How you doing, Vance? Deuces Wild, I met. Don't overthink it. Do it. Yeah, and you know what, Vance? That's a great. And listen to Vance. Vance has got a great channel. I'm a subscriber of Vance. I love him. I haven't been able to type in any responses, Vance, but I've been watching your videos. I've been going crazy. I've been so freaking busy. But Vance, or as his channel is called, Zepperal. All right, wonderful channel, and he knows what he's talking about. Deuces. Uh, when you're thinking about it, once you know, and you can kind of cover those prerequisites I was talking, okay, I've got something I could do. I could talk about this and I would love to do it. I think I have the energy. Then you got to take the step, because I can guarantee you your first video is going to suck. All of our first videos sucked. My first 300 sucked. Okay. You get better as you go along. And the idea is not how good or how prepped you are to run your own YouTube channel. The idea is, does it come from the heart? And are you willing to take that first step? Make that first video. Do it. Always do it. Put that one foot in front of the other. That's the number one advice. And I'm glad you brought that up, Vance. And I probably should have said that right at the beginning. Good point. Douglas Gilbert, Renaissance should be inducted into the Rock and Roll prog rock. A lot of prog people need to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A lot of heavy metal folks, and just classic rock acts out there that still aren't in there. I just can't believe it. Able bodied, yes, for them too. Okay, so he dittos that. Awesome on the Chubby Checker seeing his nomination. Michael Broswell says, yeah. He's an early memory of me. I remember that record, and I was just a young shaver when that record was so hot. I going to school then. I remember they were playing Chubby Checker, and all the adults in the house were doing the twist. I probably did it too, and I had just learned to count to 100. And that night they were playing Chubby Checkers, and I couldn't wait for my mom to get home from work so I could tell them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I was so proud, right? So whatever year that was, and that was my strongest memory to Chubby Checker. I couldn't believe, because the adults in the house were anywhere from you had teenagers doing it. I had a couple of older cousins. We're at my aunt and uncle's house. He was in his 40s. My mom and her sister were in their 30s. So we had teens, 30s, I think a couple of 20s in the house, and they were all digging it, man. Yeah, and us kids were up there, come on, baby, you know. All right, so real good. Maureen Nelson Maud. I loved the Monkees more than the Beatles, but I was 11. Yeah, and there was a lot of people. They were, everybody. John Lennon said this about the Monkees. He said it because they were criticizing, some people were criticizing the Beatles for changing too much. Why don't you get back to just being, the lovable mop tops that we've all grown to love? Even the grandmothers loved you. And he says, well, yeah, but we got to go forward. And besides, if you want mop tops, there's always the Monkees. And he wasn't cutting them down. The Monkees and the Beatles kind of hung out together. They didn't see them as this big fake thing that initially they were. For the most part, you either had, you had them singing. They weren't playing their own instruments. Later on, they rectified that more and more, right? And became a real rock band. But it's their discography. Not that they wrote most of their songs. As a matter of fact, I think Peter and Michael were actually the ones that wrote. I didn't Peter write something. I thought he did. Other than that, they had people like Neil Diamond writing their songs. Royce and Hart was writing their stuff. So they were an image at first, but they became somehow more than that. And there is this cultural statement that the damn TV show has left. I mean, that show is watched probably in reruns as much as Gilligan's Island, right? People, generations and generations down the line, will find something to watch in those shows. And they do capture both of those shows, especially when Gilligan went to color. They capture that 60s kind of feel, you know. That's part of the pop culture that so many of us grew up with. Deuces Wild, Italian prog rock is nothing to scoff at. So many wonderful virtual musicians, and I haven't got into any prog rock of any specific lineage or anything like that. Matter of fact, that's the first time I've heard the term Italian prog rock. Although, if I had thought about it for a half second, I probably would have said, yeah, I'm sure they've got Borneo prog rock, Madagascar prog rock, right? But are they known specifically? Like krautrock is? Is it like something that people into prog rock? I'm into prog, but like I've told people before, I've got a wider palette, and I love elements of prog, and Yes is one of my top bands in rock in general, and my favorite prog rock. I'm even re-listening to King Crimson, catching up on them. I love them. I love ELP. Right? It can be said that Pink Floyd was prog rock. I don't see them, fitting into that as simply, although there's certain aspects of that, right? Moody Blues, I consider proto prog at the very least, if not actually the first prog rock band. You could think of it along that line. Okay, Alvel, at least Big Star got in the Grammy. I had heard some scuttlebutt, but I didn't follow the Grammys. It's all I can do to follow the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'll actually, force myself to watch the induction center only because I have this channel. Because part of the things I do is bring up. I better know what I'm talking about, and sometimes you got to take a look at the other side. To see what's going on and to be educated enough to speak on the matter. But I don't think I'd be running off to go see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at all if I didn't currently have a rock channel. Reading about it would probably be an effort at this point, right? But yeah, just not into the big organizations and the artsy. I quit watching the Academy Awards decades ago when it becomes too political and there's an agenda in the air, and you see a certain thing happening. It's like, okay, I'm out of there, man. I'm no longer welcome on their playground. They brought in some playground equipment that's beyond me or I find uncomfortable to sit on, right? So, not a big, who got this, the Academy Award, who got the Grammys. I've always kind of not liked the Grammys because when the Beatles were out, they were ignored constantly. And when I was still aware and wanted to watch the Grammys, every single artist I ever liked was ignored for the vast majority of it. And you get Robert Goulet and all those folks in back in those years. I don't know if he ever won a Grammy, but he seems like the kind of guy that should have, huh? So there's that aspect. All right. Okay, folks. So listen, we've been going almost 2 hours straight up. I cannot say thank you
Storm Cup
enough.
has to go, so maybe you could say goodnight.
Who's that?
Storm Cup.
Storm Cup. Oh, all right, brother. I hear that. I'm gonna tail it down here. I'm in no major hurry, but that kind of gets the part across. And if you're watching this video later, first of all, give me a thumbs up. That always helps. Should have said that earlier, right? Because most people will just watch like a certain minute of it, then they'll skip here and skip there. So you never know when to say, hey, give me a thumbs up. But and let me know what you think of all of this. All right. I tried to tie this together. If you can put up with the video quality from last night's stream, also watch that because I got even more minute in the details in explaining how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame works and what it means. And if you go back to that stream, you'll also notice another thing. Uh, I was very pleased with how well I came off as far as what I thought might happen. The only thing that kind of surprised me is Mariah Carey didn't get in, right? Something in me knew that they're going to do it. And I'll bet you right now, I'm going to make that. I will predict this. I think she'll be on the list next year, unless something comes to the fore that she's pissed off somebody, which is possible. I did kind of suppose that earlier in this stream, right? If she's made the wrong enemies, Hollywood, that whole Hollywood crowd, and they can say, "Well, this is Cleveland." Yeah, bullshit. It's Hollywood. Um, Hollywood's got their stinking fingers in everything, and I don't like Hollywood. All right. I don't. I love good movies. I love great actors. I've been fans of great movies and great actors, right? And I've been fan of great albums and great musicians. And like my great albums and great musicians, shut your fucking mouth when it comes to telling me what to do with my life. And I don't like it when Hollywood does that. And that seems to be their whole thing. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has gotten pretty much like that. So unless she's made an enemy, okay, then or a group of enemies, I'm going to predict she'll be right back in the list of nominees next year. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? All right, any of you want to take me up on that? No money, couldn't afford it anyway. But what do you think? Do you think she's a shoe in for one of the 14? Do you think Mariah Carey will once again deny yet another worthy nomination to be there and see if they might make the top 7? She can't. Anyway. All right, guys, this has been a phenomenal uh, stream. First of all, we had a very high amount of you. Yeah, I hope you're all high. No, well over 100. I always have my notes covering that, and I did see it at one point. That was good, especially streaming for a second night in a row. It was wonderful to get that. We've still got 84 watching at this minute.
Oh, Bill Hawkins.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate
Bill,
$25. My goodness. You need some cash. We all need some cash, don't we, Bill? Bill, thank you so much. I appreciate it. What a send off here at the end. Okay. Yeah, like I've said many times, I'm not bullshitting you guys. I have decided to, about 3 months ago, I decided to fine tune my energies to the core of you. I have about 5,000 of you that watch most of what I do, an outer core of about 10,000 of you that'll watch what you think, well, I watch him when I like his subject. And then I have a core of like 2 to 3,000 of you that show up for so many of my things. And that's when I realized, look, those are the people that show up no matter what. And that's where I wanted to redirect my attention to. So sometimes it means I put out videos that I I know may not get that many views, but it's a subject I know a lot of you want to talk about, that you're interested in. And so I'm making videos now. I'm developing streams now to talk to the real you in a more deliberate and try to meet some of your needs on some of the subjects that I cover, right? And ever since I've done that, the channel has started to regrow again. It's still losing subscribers, but the growth pattern has increased so much that it's now more than making up for what I was losing. I went through 3 months there where I'd get to, let's say the number was 150. It would shoot down to 122 in a heartbeat and then spend 3 days to get back up to 150, right? And then they would lose 10. And the only reason they would choose, I was still getting new subscribers, but somebody is taking them off the back end. And you guys have told me that. And ever since that, and I rectified that, I go, you know what? I'm going to direct my energies to those who are showing up the most and everything else. I'll still make videos that I know, oh, yeah, everybody in the universe, I still want to grow this channel, but I want to meet the needs of those of you who have supported me for the last, I say 3.5 years. That's how long I've been on. But for the last 3 years specifically, 3 years and a couple of months now, we're into season 4 now. I started my official YouTube channel, just doing rock and roll, in about the 15th of February, 2022, right? So the 15th, this past 15th of February was my 3 year anniversary. We've been in season 4 ever since. And season 4, I've spent all of season 4 reconfiguring this channel just for you guys. And you guys are making it so very worthwhile. All right. I'm going to get off this thing, especially if Royce is out there going to be putting something on. Everybody, let me know what you think, even when I get off. Come on over to the replay and leave any comments that you want to kind of stay up, because those don't go away. Once this is off, the peanut gallery conversation goes away, and you might have something that you might want to say in connection with what I was talking about tonight, even if it is to disagree with me. I didn't get to too many disagreements tonight. I'm sure there was more than one there, but there were so many I wasn't picking or choosing, folks. As you can tell, when I've chosen, I just grab somebody and I start reading it. And often I figure out halfway reading it, oh, okay, I'm going to have to defend myself here. I'm fine with that. I'm fine. If I can't defend myself, then you got me. And I'll probably say something like, well, let me do some more thinking on that. I might change my mind. I don't have it all figured out, right? Matter of fact, that's kind of what's fun about doing all this. Together, we can figure it out. And then there's a general, as usual, with any group of people, there will be a majority kind of expression coming from the concerts or from the comments, and people are watching that. So it even gives you a sense of well being and a sense like you have something to say, even in the comments of this channel, because people are reading these comments, folks. I've heard from plenty of people you wouldn't believe have shown up on this channel. All right. I appreciate you all being here. I'm Michael Noland. This is the Tribal Forum when I'm live. And the rest of the time, the channel's called The Bottom Line. All right. And the bottom line is how I see it. No other way. You're free to disagree with me. In fact, it's in those comments where we prove we are. Notice how I do that? The tribe. All right, folks. Thanks so much for showing up. Thanks for hanging right at the end. We're keeping a large portion of our viewership right into the end, and that is heartening. Royce, thanks for showing up. Dan, I'm just shouting out. Was Nick here earlier, babe, from the panel? Of course, I encourage everybody to sub to Royce in the House. He is the brother channel to this channel, and every Sunday night at 6:30 West Coast time, PST. I'm on that panel more often than not. And matter of fact, I do my Sunday streams to lead up to Royce's show, and it's called Royce, Royce, in the House. And sub him up, folks. You'll be doing me a solid, and the tribe will grow. And that limb of the tribe, we're like the body. Royce is one of the limbs, right? That limb will grow strong, right? And that's only good for the tribe. Royce's growth is good for me. Okay, folks, I'll see you on my next stream. This may be my last stream until Sunday because I've got a couple of videos I've got to get caught up on. And but Sunday's going to be a great stream, and we'll see you then. All right, night, folks, and everybody. I hope you have a wonderful week and everything's going, and that life is treating you gently. If not, take a breath and do your best. That's about sometimes all you can do. One foot in front of the other, one more breath, one more time. And if you're not going through difficult times, like I know some of you have, blessings to you and appreciate it because everything comes in seasons. All right, Michael Noland, I'll see you on my next stream.